Okay, so first and foremost, we are talking with Mike Manning, star of Beyond the Gates, who is starring in a new movie called Unexpected Treasures. Mike, welcome to, I guess you could say, the show.
Thank you for having me.
First and foremost, how did this movie or how did your participation in this movie come about? Because I know you're starring it, you're the star, and of course, you're also executive producer.
Yeah, I became an executive producer after the fact. I was hired onto the movie as an actor, and we shot in April of 2024 in Joshua Tree. And at the time, I was living in California. I've since then moved to Atlanta for Beyond the Gates, which is your background. Um, so it was an easy, I always love shooting around where I live because then I can it's just I don't have to get on a plane. It's easier. I read the script, and in the script, Sam, my character, he's an alien, but he's so kind and he's benign. He's loyal. He's earnest. He's just a beautiful creature, and it felt really good. I've played a lot of bad guys in my career, and so I was looking for to play a good guy, and it felt really good to sort of embody Sam. He also has telepathy powers, which my 7-year-old comic book sci-fi self was really excited about. And then, throughout the course of the movie, he's trying to get back to his spaceship. He meets Hartley, played by Olivia Blue, who was fantastic. She's a Joshua Tree local. She helps him get back to his spaceship. And along the way, he sort of restores her faith in humanity.
There you go. I actually I couldn't help when I was watching the film. So for anyone who's listening or who's watching, I should say, this is kind of a spoiler interview. I couldn't help but watching the film, and I was like, is this sort of like an ET but human style? Because he's like trying to get his way back home. The only difference is I think he didn't have like a spaceship. He had sort of like a portal. So,
Yeah, yeah. They say spaceship in the film, but he's actually trying to get back to his teleportation device. So because he doesn't have a spaceship, and they kind of
right,
make a joke in the film, like not everybody has a spaceship. What are you talking about? They're expensive. And so
right.
yeah, it's exactly like that. It's like E.T. I mean, growing up, when I saw Spielberg's E.T., it was one of the movies that made me believe in the magic of movie making and want to be in this industry. And you also had other movies. You had Cocoon, you had the Ron Howard film, you had Close Encounters of the Third Kind. You had so many of these alien movies from the 1980s that were uh, beautiful and adventure films and family films, and that's very much what this movie is. If people go into this movie wanting, Alien with Ripley and the xenomorphs, then that's not what this movie is.
Right. No, I couldn't help but notice that there were certain themes throughout the film that weren't just about obviously the alien, although that was the center of it all. Like, the family dynamics between a mother and a daughter, how the communication, broke down and how they can come back together and how I guess the alien in a certain way helped bring them together. I'm still a little wondering, like, how did they just automatically accept that he's an alien, considering he literally is human-like? I mean, there were certain characteristics I can tell, obviously, that made sense, but of course, the end of the movie makes sense. But I love the fact that your character Sam had a sugar like how do I
Yeah.
say, like an addiction, and I was like, is that supposed to be a metaphor for something, or is it just he literally just has a sugar addiction?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if the sugar addiction is a metaphor. I never asked Christina that, the writer.
Yeah.
Um, but there are a ton of other metaphors in the movie, and I think I really tried to play Sam as realistic as possible, but there was, you can tell that there's something off. He's a little weird, he's a little quirky, there's something that's not quite human. And of course, he does have the flashing green eyes, he has the
Yes.
telepathy. And so I think that helps when we're convincing, the humans that he's an alien. I think Hartley's character, Olivia, um, she's sort of rough around the edges and she's sort of slower to believe that he's an alien. But then Kaya, on the other hand, played by Lauren, um, she's like, "Oh yeah, he's an alien. He's trying to get back home." And she goes, "Oh, okay, cool." She kind of believes it, which also is interesting. That's very Joshua Tree. So we shot in Joshua Tree, and something that I didn't expect that was surprising to me, which I loved, was how much mythology around extraterrestrials exists in Joshua Tree. There are some people in this movie that are not actors. They're just playing themselves, building their homes in Joshua Tree and believing in aliens. And there's such a deep mythology. Some of what's in this movie is based on in the 1950s. There's a story of George Van Tassel coming to Joshua Tree and or living in Joshua Tree, and beings from Venus came down and showed him secrets of this technology, and so that's sort of what the in the movie that storyline is based on actual mythology from Joshua Tree. I think in terms of Sam, maybe his sugar addiction, if I had to, make something up, it's that, Sam is sweet and Sam is kind and Sam wears his heart on his sleeve. He's like the golden retriever alien. Did you ever see the movie Bicentennial Man with Robin Williams?
I want to say yes, but it was probably been such a long time.
It's such a long time ago. Yes. So,
Yeah.
so it's a long time ago. So Robin Williams in this movie, and it's been so long that I think I can give a spoiler. Uh, in this movie, he starts out as a robot, and
Oh,
over the
right,
course of the
yes.
movie, he falls in love with the human family, and he falls in love with humanity so much that by the end of the movie, he gives up all of his savings and everything else to become a human, or as close to a human as he can be. And that is to me what Sam is. Sam just loves humanity. He's a very sweet, mild-mannered person. He has telepathy powers, but he only uses it as a weapon, his powers as a weapon when he needs to. And that lends to the escapism, popcorn, bubblegum kind of feeling
Right.
of this movie, which I think we can all use a little bit of positive escapism right now in the world.
No, of course. And it's funny, one of the lines in the movie, I think it was towards the end, was talking about how no one has any money. Because a lot of the characters are like, I don't have any money. Nobody has any money. And it's like, well, yeah, these days nobody really does.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it's escapism, but at the same time it's dealing with real life situations in its own unique way. And so I'm interested. It's just interesting how you mentioned that some of the people weren't like trained professional actors who were in the film. I'm sure they weren't like the main characters, obviously, but it's just interesting how they're able to interact both reality with their reality in this film. And so I have to say I was a little thrown off from time to time in terms of like, is he an alien? Because I'm not sure. Because it's like it's not the way it was played. It was just the way. When I say played, I don't mean the acting. I just mean like um, the way it was. The way it's playing out is what I'm trying to say. There were certain moments I was like, okay, where's the alien part of it? Because other than him talking to like the dog and other things, I was like, hmm. But then obviously as things kept progressing, and then of course we had the villain following him, which in a certain regard, I was like, um, he reminded the actor, the way he was dressed, at least, he reminded me of the character from that Fallout show, which is on Prime Video
Oh
as
yeah, yeah,
well.
yeah,
And I was
yeah,
like,
yeah.
is that? I was like wondering if that was just a choice or
The
just
one
something to
with the
be.
missing nose in Fallout that you're talking
Right.
about.
Yes. Yes.
Yep,
I
yep,
was like,
yep.
this is because it totally reminded me of that. I don't know where I was going with that, but it's just something that just popped in my head.
It's fine. Wait,
So
the glowing green eyes didn't give it away that he's an alien. You still didn't believe?
I mean, certain people have nice, good looking eyes. Just saying. I mean, hello.
Okay, all right. Thank you.
But no, but I know, right. It was nice. It was glowing. Yes, definitely. I did notice in the end of the film, and maybe it's just a reflection from when they were in the when he was going through the portal. But I noticed that all the other characters had like glowing green eyes,
Yes, yes, yes,
and I was
absolutely.
like,
So
and I was
it's
like,
kind of it was a reflection of the portal, but it
uh-huh.
also in terms of the one of the messages of the movie is like we're all a galactic community. We're all connected. We're all
Right,
connected with our energies and how we interact with the universe. And so, in the end, in the beginning, Sam's the only one with the green eyes, and in the end, you have all the characters who have been touched by Sam in some way
right.
watching the portal, and their eyes are glowing green. And it was kind of this really nice full circle moment with them.
there was
Yeah.
a that one of those moments. I think not further, but like maybe like a minute or two later, I kind of was like, "Is there supposed to be like a sequel to this?" Because the villain disappeared, and we're like, "Where'd he go?"
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, like any good production team and director, JP, the director, and Christina, the writer producer, they absolutely did that on purpose so that they could set up for a sequel.
Okay. I mean, I actually was like, okay, I'm looking forward to see what's going to happen next. Because when you have not something, but someone who stands out where you're like, you're seeing them as the villain, and you're like trying to find out their motivation of why they're following this. Obviously, it's an alien, but at the same time, I guess because I see you and I see a human being in that role, I'm
Hmm.
like, why does he like? It's not like you're dressed like it, or you're not what's the word, like even the aliens, like the alien movies and stuff. You're not looking like that. So the rationalization from following you so much, kind of like it's like what did he do other than just being from another? Because it's like, and I don't even get political, but it's like being from a different country. You know how people are being called aliens or this and that, and we kind of understand the reasoning and rationale behind that. But at the same time, it's like, but we physically look the same. We're all
Well, and
know.
I think you hit the nail on the head. That's exactly why they did it, is because what is the definition of an alien? An alien is somebody that is from another place, right? It comes in from another place. And
Mhm.
so because somebody's an alien doesn't necessarily mean that they need to look different, need to sound different, everything else. And oftentimes, I think one of the messages of the movie is that oftentimes we notice as adults, we notice differences first. As kids, we notice similarities first. If you look at, kids that are meeting each other for the first time, where prejudice has not been yet taught to
Right.
them, they're like, oh, you have a nose, you have eyes, you have fingers, you're just like me. And then as we get older, we learn to see differences first. And I think one of the messages of this film is like, why can't we be like our childlike selves? Why can't we start to see similarities? And for that reason, they wanted Sam to not look like a gross, slimy alien from outer space with 10 eyes. They wanted him to look like a human. And of course, he's not human, and he could have changed his appearance if he wanted to. And I think they mentioned that in the movie. But
Yeah.
he's been living among humans for the last 100 years, and he likes them. He wants to be involved with them as long as they give him sugar. And and not unlike most people, I guess.
Right. I like the fact that he actually built friendships over that time. Because you would think if you're an alien that you would want to be like keeping to yourself and
Hmm.
stay on the down low. But whereas him, he was like, this is my friend, this person, this is my friend, that person. I've known this person, they do this. And so I like that because it wasn't as if she was the one, in this case, Hartley, introducing him to these people. He was the one introducing her, even though she's
Hmm.
from there as well, but not necessarily next door to these people, but still close enough. And so I like that part because it just basically humanized him more than
Hmm.
a lot of other human beings.
Hmm.
Because some people are very, like, don't bother me. I don't want to talk
Yeah,
to you,
yeah,
or not even
yeah.
saying that, just keeping themselves to the side. So how does this character, Sam, differ from, I guess you could say, some other aliens in other films? I know we touched upon a couple of films, but how would you say?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, like we talked about, I think he's much more in line with E.T., almost with like that childlike wonder and connection and friendship. He's kind of like Cocoon, where, they're just trying to live among people, and they care about humans, they like humans. Close Encounters of the Third Kind, where they're also benign. You also have K-Pax, you have Kyle XY, you have Roswell, you have so many great examples of benign, friendly aliens that love and respect humanity. It's not like one of those alien movies where humans have to be afraid of the aliens, where they're a threat, any of
Right.
that.
Yeah, it's definitely not Mars Attacks.
Not Mars Attacks at all.
So how does you, I know you said that you started out as just an actor on the film and then you eventually were an executive producer, but how does executive producer differ from just acting in a film?
Yeah, so I mean, I have a production company and I consider myself an actor producer. I keep one foot in acting jobs and where I show up to set, I do my job, I'm just an actor and that's it. I'll take meetings, I'll have auditions, that's my acting side. And then for the last decade, I've had my production company and producing was something I sort of fell into. I started producing documentaries as a way to shine a light on certain social issues that I care about. I've done documentaries on child abuse, on homeless youth, on LGBT history and equality. And so, things that interest me that I think deserve a microphone, I try to create movies about them. And then after I did a couple documentaries, I transitioned into scripted, and I've gotten pretty good at packaging movies, at finding scripts, giving notes on scripts, connecting like, oh, hey, this director might be good for this project, might be good for this, because once you're in, I've been doing this for a while now, and once you're in the industry, you sort of just meet people naturally, and so I love packaging projects that I think deserve to be made. With this project, specifically, I was hired on as an actor, and then I started uh giving advice on the film or giving my opinion whether they wanted it or not. I was like, hey, why don't we try this? Hey, why don't we do this? Hey, why don't we do this? And after they took enough of my suggestions, they came to me uh graciously and said, hey, Mike, do you want to be an executive producer on this film? You've done more for this film than just an actor. And I said, great, thank you. Sure. So it was after the fact, which I'm actually not sure that that's ever happened to me before. Usually, if I'm on a film as an actor producer, it's right from the beginning. So it was nice. It was a nice surprise.
Well, I'm glad that that happened because I mean, experience is important, like even if they don't want to hear it and they didn't ask for it, sometimes it doesn't hurt to give some input, especially if you're seeing something that's going on and you know that they could do it differently, maybe even more efficiently. So I'm glad that that ended up happening. And of course, they were happy to receive it versus, oh, no, do your job, kind of situation.
Yeah. Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
Working with your fellow cast members, particularly Olivia, who played Hartley, what was it like working with her in this on this film?
Yeah, well, Olivia was fantastic. She's so kind and so interesting. She just has an interesting energy about her and an interesting look. And so it was so much fun to find the dynamic between Hartley and Sam working with her. And we didn't know each other before the movie, and we didn't spend a ton of time together. We got together, over Zoom, and then we got together in person just to talk about the character and talk about their dynamic and their relationship. But the majority of getting to know her happened on camera, which we both did on purpose because, Sam on one hand, like we said, is very kind and generous and gentle and uh earnest. He's like the golden retriever of aliens. And then Hartley, her character, is rough around the edges, down on her luck, and a little abrasive. And so it's almost like Sam is trying to pull her back to being happy again and realizing how lucky we are just to be on this floating rock in the universe called Earth together. And so I wanted her to make me work for it throughout the movie.
Gotcha. I have to say, I had wondered when I was watching the film, did you were you like real life friends and did you guys know each other before? But it's interesting because you couldn't tell that. Like for me, I thought you guys had very good chemistry and flow with each other in the sense that I just couldn't tell that you weren't. I mean, I knew that the characters weren't like to get like friends and stuff, but I could tell that there was something maybe at least I thought, I overthought, I guess, that there was something that you guys knew each other behind the scenes, but clearly that wasn't the case. So that just means that it was a natural um evolution for the characters to learn from each other and learn about each other just as well as you guys were learning about each other as well. So that's good to know. Um
Yeah.
so I mentioned the sugar thing, so I'm not gonna gloss over that because that was another question I had asked. I was gonna ask, but then I realized I already asked it earlier. Uh, so what did I put here? Oh, sorry, you already said how you got involved. I understand that this was done last year. And that you said it was in April, right? Um, not necessarily trying to touch on Beyond the Gates just yet, but how far from when you were doing this film to Beyond the Gates did you get involved with Beyond the Gates? Like, was it like you knew about it and then you eventually got involved later on, or
Yeah, I didn't know about Beyond the Gates until the fall of, so we shot this in April, the
right?
spring of 2024. I didn't find out about Beyond the Gates until maybe a couple months later is when I first found out about Beyond the Gates, and I auditioned for one of the roles, which was different than the role I ended up getting, by the way. And
Oh,
I actually, on Beyond the Gates, I mean, I think I've talked about this before, but I auditioned for Derek at first, not
okay.
Smitty. And I think it was a different name at that time, but I auditioned for the Derek role, and then I didn't hear anything back. And then I auditioned for the role that became Smitty. But I sent in my tape, and then I didn't hear anything back. And I was in Thailand shooting another movie with Anthony Hopkins, and it's amazing, and I'm so excited for it to come out. They're still editing it right now. It should come out, I think, next year. But so I'm in literally in the middle of the jungle, in the middle of nowhere in Thailand, and my manager texts me, "Hey, call me when you get this." So I go back to my tent and I call him, and he says, "Hey, they want you for Beyond the Gates. Are you still willing to move to Atlanta for the show? And are you still excited? You still want to do it?" And I said, "Yeah, great. Like, I really like the character. I like the premise of the show. When do they want me there? Do they want me there?" 2 weeks, 3 weeks, I'm almost done this movie. I have 5 more days on this movie. And he goes, "Mike, they need you on set in like 6 days." And I was like,
Oh
"What?"
wow.
He said they have the table read, you have to be in Atlanta for the table read. And I was like, "Oh wow, okay." So they changed the schedule for me, and they shot me out early. And I remember I wrapped this movie at 4 in the morning on a Monday morning. I brought my suitcases to set. I go to the airport in the clothes I was wearing on set, and I'm like changing in the cargo van, and then I go to the airport and I hop on a plane. I land. I had a layover somewhere. I landed in Atlanta Tuesday night, and I went to bed, and then I woke up Wednesday morning and went to the table read. And that was it. And I jumped right in to Beyond the Gates, and I am glad that they didn't see me show up disheveled and sleep deprived and everything else and say, "Oh, we made the wrong decision. Never mind."
Right.
But it was, yeah, it was a whirlwind, and I don't remember the first week of being here in Atlanta. But aside from that, I had a great time.
No, right. What I like about that was because I was going to mention the Anthony Hopkins movie because I remember reading the deadline headline. I was like, "Oh, congratulations to I was because it's always good to see our people in our community, soap opera community doing very well, and not just obviously within the soaps itself, but beyond, and especially when you're working with such a talented individual like the Oscar winner. So
Thank you.
I love the fact that you started this movie in the beginning of the year, then you started your other film that you actually are heavily involved in, and then now you're on Beyond the Gate. So that just goes to show you that you could literally be doing one thing 1 minute, another thing another, and then later on. And just you don't have to necessarily be doing the same things throughout your entire year or entire life. Just means that you could always change. And that's one of the benefits of being an actor, not from experience. I'm just presuming this is the case that you're able to go through because you're playing different characters, you get to go through different scenarios, different situations, specifically for how what the characters are going through. But then you get to somewhat experience it yourself from the eyes of that individual, even though it's technically your eyes too. It's
Yeah, yeah. Well, the nice thing, the amazing thing and the frustrating thing about this industry, about being an actor or a writer or a director or, a musician or, it's it could feel like you are running uphill towards the summit. And while you're running, the summit just keeps getting further and further and further away. You might feel like a hamster on a wheel sometimes, but sometimes all it takes is a phone call. All it takes is that one yes to sort of start propelling you and propelling you. So anybody who's listening in the entertainment industry, and I would venture to say a host is kind of the same thing. It's like we are trying to put things out into the world that we are proud of, that we create either by ourselves or with a team. And we're just trying, we're hoping that somebody likes it enough to pay us for it. And sometimes all it takes is a phone call and it changes your entire life.
right, definitely. I know that there's a couple questions I have about Beyond the Gates, but before we get up onto those topics, is there anything you want to say to those who might be watching this movie on Prime Video, I believe, right? Is there anything you want to say to them in terms of why they should watch and why they should, or hope, oh, and why they should watch and what you hope they take from the film?
Great question. If you are going to watch Unexpected Treasures, I hope that you go into it with an open mind in terms of a different twist on an alien movie. And I venture to say it's not even it has it's a science fiction film, but it's also a drama. It has a lot of the family dynamics, like what you talked about with the Hartley character and her mother. It has sort of a coming of age vibe to it with Hartley finding her way in the world. It's a lot of it's a character piece just as much as it is a fun alien film. Joshua Tree is beautiful. The mysticism of Joshua Tree is absolutely a character in the movie. And if you're looking for something just that's going to provide an escapism for an hour and 45 minutes or however long the movie is, then this is your movie.
Right. One thing I can't help but asking is because of your experience in soap operas, whether it be Days of Our Lives, The Bay, or Beyond the Gates, um, how did you how did you prepare in terms of learning your lines and stuff? Did you just use the old habits of, oh, I read it for like, I'm presuming here, 15 minutes, remembered everything, I'm good to go on set. Whereas everybody else is like, oh my God, can you please help me? It's like
Oof.
cramming for school or
Yeah,
something.
yeah. I wish it took me 15 minutes. I definitely think that memorizing lines is a muscle, and just like any other muscle, the more you work it, the easier things become. But my process, whether it's on a soap opera or a movie or a primetime show, is always the same. I start macro and I go micro. So when I receive a script on Beyond the Gates or The Bay or Days of Our Lives, I would start out with like, okay, what is the scene about? What does my character want in this scene? What is my objective and what's in my way? And then I would say, okay, what are the beats of these scenes? Who has the power in this moment? Who has the power in this moment? And then I break it down of, okay, what is my thought behind each and every single line? Because if I don't know why I'm saying something, why why am I saying it? Why is the character saying something? And I think when actors have a problem memorizing lines, it's because they either haven't created that history and that image for themselves, or they're not specific enough as to why they're saying that line. And then once I do all that work, then the memorizing comes last. And at that point, your brain has started to already memorize the lines while you're doing all this character building work. And so it's absolutely become easier working on a soap opera to uh, you know basically do that process much more quickly, but it still takes me hours to work on a script or to work on character development or anything else. Some scenes are obviously easier than others, but it still takes a while because there's so much to learn and so much to discover. I'm not one of those actors that can just pick up a scene, look at it, and then I'm ready to go, because I think that is not the way that you make it as realistic and deep and rich as you possibly can.
Right. Um, I have to say that speaking of character development and stuff, I was very amazed how quickly Martin and Smitty were able to they're not on the best of terms, and they haven't been for most of the since the show premiered, essentially. But at the same time, the chemistry and the relationship and the dynamics behind that, um, I kind of wonder, like, just like I was, I guess, presuming earlier with Olivia, that maybe you and Brandon may have worked together, not previously, but in the sense of like preparing for when you start working together on screen, and maybe you guys create like sort of like a bond relationship there. I'm presuming that is the case, at least on the soap opera part of it. But if not, interesting, because you guys really just come across very naturally.
Thank you for saying that. Yeah, I think that because we shoot an episode or more every single day, and because we're on set 5 days a week, and obviously I'm not working every day, because I'm not even in some of the episodes, but because we all work together so much, we got to know each other very quickly. And I think because Beyond the Gates is the first brand new soap opera in 25 years, because it is the one of the most, if not the most representative soap ever in history of what the world looks like, in terms of characters, in terms of socioeconomic class, in terms of race and gender and age and everything. I think that this soap, and obviously I know that there was generations that came before this, but generations, if I'm not mistaken, it included black characters, but at its nucleus, it did not surround a black family from its inception. And this soap has done that. And the writers and creators and producers have been very intentional with the characters that they're inviting into Fairmont Crest and the characters that they're putting on the screen. And I think that it's making history in many ways. And I think we all knew that and we all recognized that. And so right from its inception, this show felt really special, and we all felt really honored to be a part of it in that way, and honored to have a seat at the table and to make these characters and make this show. And when that happens, you feel like you're all playing on the same team, and you kind of, it brings you together very quickly. So I became fast friends with a lot of people in the cast, Brandon being one of them. And the more that Brandon and I work together, because a lot of our scenes are together, the more comfortable obviously we would be. Now, I'm really glad that in the beginning of the show, th- Martin had a secret and Smitty didn't know what that secret was. And there was that tension there because a lot of the fans in the beginning, they're like, well, why are these guys so cold to each other? Do they even love each other? And you could sense that there was a distance there. You could sense that there was this secret that was getting in the middle of their marriage. And Smitty knew that, and that's why Smitty was going crazy. And then finally, when that secret was revealed, you understood where Martin was coming from and why he had to keep it a secret. And you understood where Smitty was coming from in terms of not being mad about what happened. His heart broke for what Martin went through, but he was angry that Martin's lies put their kids in danger. And Smitty was left out of that decision and wasn't consulted to try to plan on how to keep their kids out of the danger. That's what he was upset about. And then once that secret was aired, now we've seen Martin and Smitty start to rebuild and come closer. And I think you've seen glimpses of their love and glimpses of like how hard it's been for them to be apart, and that they truly do love each other. I don't think there's any fan watching the show now that would say, "Oh, it's all an act. They don't love each other." Now it's funny because in the beginning everybody was mad at Martin for abusing, like lying to Smitty and like mentally almost abusing him in some ways because he was just so disconnected, and he lied to him, again and again and again. Now I'm noticing that people are mad at Smitty because they're like, Smitty, get over yourself. Just stop being so annoying. Just, like either break up or make up. Like just come on and do it. And so it's interesting how, I mean, I love it. I love that the fans have such strong opinions about the
Right.
show because it means they're watching the show. If they're talking about the show, then we're doing our jobs. So Yeah, I think we'll see them remind the fans yet again what a loving couple they are and why they got married in the first place.
Speaking of Smitty getting a lot of the heat these days, um, I think that stems from the fact that he and Martin kind of got intimate finally, and then all of a sudden cold shoulder again. And so it's like, dude, what's going on? I thought you forgave him.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
apparently
yeah.
Smitty was like, I have needs.
Well, okay, on one hand, how real is that? How real is that?
Exactly.
That says, "Oh, I have needs and I'm a human being. I'm a man that has needs and like I'm either gonna scratch that itch with you or somebody else, like it might as well be you." How
Right.
real is that? We've all done that. We've all broken up with an ex or, taken some time apart from somebody or even just, fought with somebody and then you have like a makeup hookup, It's like
Hmm.
who hasn't done that? But at the same time, I remember reading that script and I was mad at Smitty. I was like, oh, come on. Finally, they're intimate. And then you have to just like shut him out again. And not even, he didn't even let him down gently. He was so rude about it. I was like, Smitty, oh, come on. And I remember reading the script thinking, how can I make this believable? How can I soften the blow a little bit? How can I uh, make Smitty not so unlikable? And I remember going to set being like, well, there's no way. There's no way. It's Smitty is a human being too, and he's messy and he makes mistakes, and I'm just gonna make a mistake. And damn, did the fans react.
Right. And not only that, I love the fact that there's not just the relationship drama, but I love the fact that there is the added layer of the family drama, not just with the Duprees themselves, like, directly with them, but more so in the fact that they're now dealing with this woman who's come out of the woodwork, who's like, I'm the biological mother of these kids. And your characters I still don't understand how they have you guys, as in you and Brandon, playing parents to teenagers, but that's besides the point. Because I mean, you guys don't look like
Well, yeah, but isn't there something? I mean, on the show, Martin and Smitty are in their early 30s,
right.
which independently of the kids, I think is believable. But then when you add the kids in there, I mean, the kids are older teenagers, and it is a bit of a strange family dynamic, but families in the world today, they come in
Right.
all shapes and sizes, and I think it's kind of beautiful that they have this non-conventional family
Yeah.
that is so loving and so there for each other. And yeah, I think it's kind of beautiful. And with June too coming into the picture, Smitty's also being kind of annoying to June, but
Hmm.
we got to remember that she was a drug addict when she
Right.
gave up these kids, and they don't know this woman. She's a stranger, and they don't know what effects she is going to have on these kids.
Right.
And so Martin's a bit more accepting, surprisingly, and Smitty has his guard up a little bit more with June because Smitty doesn't know what her intentions are. He doesn't know if she's 100% clean off of drugs. He doesn't know how she's going to impact their lives. And so of course his guard is up. Um, but yeah, we have some really beautiful things. Jasmine is such a great actress.
Right.
And so I think we have some really beautiful scenes coming up.
I have to say, I'm glad that somebody in the family is being more realistic in that situation because, to your point, she was a drug addict. I understand that people can change, but at their core, you don't for when you're an addict, you don't forget that you're an addict. You may not be an active. I have no experience personally saying this, but from my understanding, you may not be an active addict, but you were still an addict for life, technically, right? So like you
Yeah.
just whether you're no longer smoking or no longer drinking, you're still sometimes going to those meetings just to make sure you don't continue doing that. But also to your point, we don't know June's history. We're going to find out hopefully as the character evolves and it gets more involved in the immediate family with the Richardsons. I guess I know that you guys are you're Smitty Smith and then Martin Richardson. I don't know why they don't have you with hyphen Richardson, but okay.
They do. No, so I
Oh, they
don't
do.
have a
Okay.
hyphen. So technically, and I needed clarity on this too, so you're not alone. Technically, my name is Bradley Smith, and then my name is Smitty,
Right.
and then he obviously he's Martin Richardson, and so we are the Richardson Smiths.
Right.
And they do clarify that in future episodes. We do have a
Okay.
hyphen, and the kids have a hyphen.
Okay. I'm glad that's clarified because I was
But
like,
the kids do, but we don't. Like I think
yeah.
Martin and Smitty have not changed their names. I think that they're the
Oh
same
no,
last
that
names, but I think the
yeah.
kids are hyphenated.
No, that makes sense. I have a former colleague of mine. I won't say from where because I don't want to give their name out. But I remembered that they were going by their birth name. She's a woman, and she went by her birth name, and her husband went by his last name. But the children were her last name hyphen the last name of the
Yeah,
father. And I'm
yeah,
like, okay, that makes sense. So glad that that's the case
yeah.
because I think one of the reasons people do that because when the kids are in school, if they have the same last name as the parents, but then one parent doesn't have that last name, it looks suspicious.
Exactly.
That's
Yeah,
my impression of that situation.
yeah.
But going back to June, so June, we don't know what her history is. We don't know who she's been involved with. Like that's another layer that could be coming out of the woodwork. She might have not necessarily Joey specifically, but we might have a Joey type character who maybe with bad connections to the mob or drug dealing. We don't
Anything.
know.
There could be a million things that June invites into their lives that is dangerous. A million. And so that's why Smitty's guard is up. He has no reason to trust her yet,
Yeah.
especially at a time where his whole world is turned upside down with this secret with Martin. They are rebuilding. It's a very fragile time anyway. And then this stranger comes into their lives. So Smitty, yeah, of course, he's going to be a little bit erratic and a little all over the place. So if anybody's watching, just give him a little bit of grace, please.
There you go. Well, with that, I'm not going to take too much more of your time. So thank you, Mr. Mike Manning. I have this tendency of saying Mr. and Mrs. to people when I'm like either introducing or closing.
It is fine. I would rather you be more formal than less formal. At least you're not like,
Right.
hey, yo, man, yeah, Arrow. I'll say Mr. Lewis then. I'll make you feel
No,
better.
no. It's,
No.
I feel what's funny. The reason I'm saying that is because I kind of feel like I'm making them feel like they're older. Because then when you just said Mr. Lewis, it's like, oh my God, I feel old. So that sounds like I don't
Okay.
know why I
All
do
right,
that.
never mind. I won't say Mr. Lewis.
It's fine. It's fine. So yeah. So I'm going to say it again because I just happened to. Mr. Mike Manning, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me today. For anyone who's tuning in, you can watch Unexpected Treasures on Prime Video out now and Beyond the Gates on CBS and Paramount Plus. But you can also catch up on Pluto TV. And for anyone who's in Canada, CTV Drama Channel. Thank you,
Thank
Mike.
you, Arrow. Thank you so much.
You have a great day. Enjoy it, and we'll
Bye.
hopefully catch up again soon.
Absolutely.